One thing I wanted to ask you about on this is Zeihan's very uh, positive that as America's starting to have all the troubles of these different populations collapsing throughout the globe and our own wacky parts, we're going to go Mexico, our friends at this point, because they actually do have a population that is decent, that is replacing itself,
Hmm.
and they do have some labor, and we already do have some inroads, and they're right there.
Yeah. Well, and we do have a huge advantage over Europe in that manner, is that we are much more culturally similar, to our southern border than Europe is to theirs. I mean, you know, essentially the majority are descendants of people from Europe. Uh, you've got a Judeo-Christian culture, which is a huge chunk of their background. In fact, to a certain extent, I mean, uh, there's even, I mean, Protestantism has taken huge inroads all throughout Mexico, Central and South America, to the point where there isn't even really uh, a Christian schism we have to deal with. It's not going to be, I mean, obviously there's still a lot of Catholics there, but it's not going to be an absolute flood of Catholics. So it's going to be a lot harder at some point to say, hey, they're so different than us that we can't stand them coming up here. So I can really see that working out at some point. Uh, it's just a matter of uh, how, how you work. Basically, we need a different immigration system to make something like that work. Because
Yeah,
I mean, you can get to the point where if you keep pissing people off to where we basically have a nativist. We turn into a nativist hedgehog and curl up in a ball and say no, no more, nobody else is coming in. But yeah, I think under those circumstances, you know, especially I would say probably as the boomers get older, uh, it's going to become so apparent that we need more labor coming in, that they're going to have to come up with some compromise everyone can live with.
yeah. I mean, I think it would be smart to be best friends with our southern neighbors. That would probably be
Yeah.
pretty cool, but better than we are now.
Hmm.
I mean, it's not like there's nothing going on. We do have plants and stuff like that in Mexico,
Hmm.
but um, yeah, I would rather not hedgehog against Mexico. I don't see the point. Um, Canada goes.
Well, at least Quebec. I mean, we don't want God, not the French. No, we don't want the French here. No, but
Yeah,
yeah, no, yeah, we're just kind of going through an interesting period right now because, I mean, essentially the policies really haven't changed at the border in any meaningful way in probably 30 years. But there's been this veneer that's been put up to try to appease the various groups who have their view of what they think's going on. And there's a lot of rule changes, there's a lot of optics changes, but the end result hasn't changed a whole lot. I mean, it's been, you know, when the economic situation is bad down there and good up here, we have a constant flow of people coming up. And when it switches, the amount drops, but never quite goes to zero. And that's been the way things have been going. And there's not a whole lot to make me think it's going to change dramatically. It's now that the optics have changed. I mean, the media, the church can no longer give us a solid view of things. They can no longer say, "Oh yeah, this is what's happening," and everybody knows it, because you could easily go out and see varying views where it's like, well, no. I mean, you can see some views that are incredibly unrealistic and frightening that deal with border crossing and everything like that, that will essentially say, make you freak out about what's going on there. But on the flip side, if you're just looking at it realistically, it's like, okay, from a pure humanitarian standpoint, we can't keep doing things the way we're doing. There's got to be a smarter way to do this, to get the people who want to come up here, and also get the people we want to come up here coming up in such a way that it's not dangerous to them to do it.
Exactly. God. Wouldn't that be? And maybe, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, but then again, I didn't even think this weekend at Bernie's thing would be lasting this long. So
yeah, it's very interesting. Especially, I mean, if the elections go the way they appear they're going, I would have thought they would have come up with a way of. I thought they would have shuffled him out a while ago, but they may have created a trap in. So it's funny. We were talking about this last night, where it's like, okay, what made them pick Harris as vice president? What was going through their heads? Because I mean, you listen to, okay, perfect example. You look at somebody like Hillary Clinton. You can disagree with her. You can say, God, there's a whole bunch of stuff I dislike about her. But the one thing you won't say is she's stupid. I don't think
no.
Hillary Clinton's a smart person. I disagree with everything she has to say, but she's clearly intelligent as all hell. I mean, I
think she's an evil person.
Yeah, I mean, could you? I mean, you imagine if you gave her, if you fed her the right information input, what she could do with that? Because I mean, you look at the her ability, to maneuver in government the way she has over the years. She knows how to play the system. She knows how it works. I mean, clearly a smart person. But you look at someone like Kamala Harris and you go, oh my God, this is not a bright person. I mean, you don't have.
This is a bad episode of Veep.
Yeah.
This is
very much so. And so the question came up where we were talking. It's like, okay, so what do you, what was the purpose of that? What were they thinking? Well, of course, part of it was, well, we need a woman, and we need somebody who, doesn't completely violate the paper bag test, but has a shade of skin close enough to it to where we can say person of color. And so that was part of their motivations. But the thing is there are, I can't imagine.
And it can't be Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's the point is there are plenty of intelligent women in the Democratic Party who have a slightly different skin tone than the two of us. Okay, why not pick amongst it? Because Harris was not a popular choice. It's not like she had this, large group of people with her. It's like, oh yeah, if we take her as vice president, we get her people, and thus that secures victory. No, that wasn't the logic at all. So why pick her? Do you have a thought? I think I know the answer. So what do you think? Beyond demographics, what was the reason for picking her?
The only thing I could actually think of that would make any sense from a tactical standpoint is she can just take the brunt of heat. I mean, if you're going to have a geriatric that is, losing his marbles.
Yeah, but wouldn't you think? I mean, they knew what shape he was in going into this, and they knew it was going to get worse. So why did they pick somebody who? Why wouldn't you pick somebody? Okay, maybe a Tulsi Gabbard. Say the couple of things that progressives hate about her were something they could smooth over. Why not put a Tulsi Gabbard in there rather than a Kamala Harris? Why? What special quality does Kamala Harris have that they want, and why?
I don't know, because I think Tulsi would have went if they had asked.
Oh yeah.
I don't think she's. I don't think she's as honorable as people make her out.
Oh yeah, I mean, she's a politician's a politician, but I mean, if I had to have a Democratic president or vice president, I'd take her over virtually anyone I can think of off the top of my head in terms of Democrats. Yeah. Okay, so here's my thought. Here's what I came up with. So I say so. I mean, because it's not like she's just suddenly started talking like this. She's talked like this the entire time. She constantly puts her foot in her mouth. People know she's not particularly bright. She's not particularly popular. She has no base of people that she's drawing in. It's not like every Black American went, "Oh wow, I see myself in that person there. I'm voting for her." No, it wasn't there at all. Because the thing is overwhelmingly, Biden's cabinet is made up of the second tier of Obama's cabinet. Essentially, you have all the people who are the understudies of Obama's cabinet are now Biden's cabinet. You see all the same faces out there. These are the people who populated it. I think the understanding that they came up with was, they said, okay, well, it's going to be kind of Obama's people who are going to be running things because Joe isn't capable of doing it. I mean, he can get up there, we can prop him in front of a podium and do stuff, but there's going to be a lot of things that are going to be entirely upon us. I mean, perfect example is him constantly vowing to defend Taiwan to the last American man, and then like an hour later, the White House going, no, we didn't change
what
policy.
He meant to say was
what he meant is so.
Like, oh my God!
So they pick a person.
What are you talking about?
Who's essentially almost a younger version of Biden. Somebody who's not too bright, somebody who doesn't speak very well, someone who's not particularly charismatic. It's because they basically told her, said, okay, here's the deal, Kamala. We're going to pick you for vice president. You're never going to see the job of president. Just understand that. Okay? You're going to get up there and we're running things. It's going to be the cabinet running everything. And we're going to prop you up. You're going to say your things. You're going to get your perks. You're going to get your kickbacks. And when it's all over, you're going to go on speaking tours. You're going to become rich. You can sell your book. Go to Netflix, and they're going to do a biography of you, and you're going to get your percentage, and you'll be set up for the rest of your life. You're just not going to wield any power whatsoever. I could see her being the person that would say, okay. Because I don't think once she was on the verge of losing at the during the primaries, once she was out, I think she realized her political career was absolutely dead at that point. She'd probably pretty much she would pretty much agree to anything. So if they said, "Yep, you're a sock puppet now, but you're going to be a rich sock puppet," and she probably says, "Okay." I think that's why they picked her.
Also, though, and I mean, sure. But I mean, the thing about being the vice president is it's like this is the most nothing job I can see.
Mm-hmm.
And I could be vice president. I've watched what the job is. It's not hard. It's and that seems to be what it is for everybody, isn't it? It's like shut up.
But for a lot of people,
read the lines. and
yeah, but for a lot of vice presidents, it's a stepping stone to the presidency. Okay. I don't ever see her going there, and I think I mean, maybe, because all politicians are egotistical maniacs, she probably has something in the back of her head saying, yeah, maybe I can make it to there, but I can't imagine, that she honestly believes that she has a future beyond this there. I really don't.
I mean, if she decides to run as president at some point, the machine will let her go to one debate and blow her out of the water, and then yeah. So no, I hate this, John. I've said this before. I don't actually like knowing about politics at all.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think politics should be for nerds that watch birds and collect stamps. I should know nothing about it. And I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
It this I this is a trick of modernity, and especially in the West, where they've made us care, but we don't actually have enough power to do much about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just degrading to our mental health.
It's degrading in general, but yeah. Yeah, no,
You
no,
know,
you're right, because yeah, you can understand this stuff. It's like understanding exactly how a car works and knowing every single bit in it, understanding the physics of it down to the utmost degree, and knowing how to tune it and everything like that. And you're never going to own a car.
yes.
Yeah, no, it's very much like that. So, I mean, yeah, on one level, it's intriguing because it's there and it's real. So
Mm-hmm.
if you have any kind of intellect, you're drawn to try to understand what's going on. I mean, there's a certain point where it's nice to be able to, and unfortunately, what happens is because of the way information has been fragmented, it's not like the two of us are sitting down watching the same evening news each night with the same talking head telling us the same story, to where we could be arguing the nuances of what the commentator said that night. Unfortunately, right. Yeah. So I mean, so we realize that's not, well, and it doesn't really exist anymore. And even if it did, we'd realize it's BS because of how much more information we have available to us. So at some point, you start asking the questions: well, what's real and what's not? Well, I mean, ultimately, the beginning of this was about a population implosion. Well, there's a chunk of the world that believes overpopulation is the biggest problem we're going to face. Well, we're exploring the idea that a population implosion may be actually what's going on. Does knowing that particularly help us? Maybe to an extent. I mean, maybe a little bit of planning we could do if we kind of know some of the things that are going to happen. You know, we're a little bit more ready for it, because when we see certain things happening, we'll say, oh, we knew this was happening, and we know why. Whereas the other people who are still going, no, you know, we're Soylent Green any minute now, crowds of people in the streets, and barely a place to sit. And so that crowd's going to have a harder time catching up to it. So there may be some utility in understanding it in terms of maybe slim chance there's some kind of opportunity that comes our way because we recognize some of the things that are happening. And to a certain extent, talking this out, I mean, there's always a chance other people will at least say, I hadn't heard that before.
Yeah.
Hadn't heard that before.
The thing, and I've spoken to you privately about this before, but one of the things that I'm trying to do is, I guess I do want to understand enough of the way the world is moving that when I talk to young people, like young adults and stuff like that, I don't have bad advice like I was given.
Yeah, that's fair.
I want, young people, especially young dudes. Every once in a while, I come into contact, and if they talk about this or that, I want to be able to go, that's not the way to go, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to get you where you want to be. And there's some personal stuff, and that is a podcast I could completely do. Is just, what do you tell young people now?
I'm up for that one. Well, we do that. Hopefully, sooner than the last time we did this, because that would be a good point. Because I mean, I do run into people, and you're like, I'll get people talking because I'm that way. I'm curious about them. I'm curious about what's going on. Because the thing is I know you and I are weird freaking outliers in terms of how we think and look at the world. So it's really important to talk to people. And so, like when I got some worker over doing something, some contractor I hired to do something. If they're in a position to talk, I'll yabber at them just to find out what's going on. How's your life going? What do you see happening? What's making things tick? What's bothering you? What looks good to you and stuff like that. And when you're not talking to when you got somebody who feels comfortable talking and they seem like an average Joe, you get some really interesting insights. And I said, being able to give them a little bit of back feed is always good. Tell you what, I think this is probably a good place to end the video part of this. So what I'll do is we'll just say our farewells, and then we can kind of talk a little bit afterwards. But really appreciate you coming on here with me tonight. I always like doing this because, especially the fact that we jump all over the place but it all does have some relationship to each other. So is there anything else? What do you think's like probably the most important thing we covered tonight that you'd like someone to walk away from here with if they're watching this?
I mean, I don't know 100%, but this does seem to be a big thing. It seems to be a real thing. Depending on who you are and where you are in life, you probably should try and plan accordingly, because this is going to have ripples in our lives, in our lifetimes for sure. Maybe if you're 80, you're not too worried, but
Mm-hmm.
but if you're a young person, definitely look at this and look at what you can do. And but that's about it, without going into what we were talking about what do you tell young people?
Right. Yeah, and I would echo that. I would say if you're making decisions nowadays based on the idea that the world is overpopulated and going to get worse by continuous overpopulation, at least consider the alternative that the information you're getting might be wrong. Look into it, and if some of this starts making sense, start asking the questions. What should I be doing? If I made a plan based on an increasing population, how do I change that plan based on the idea that there will be implosion? Well, I think coyotes outside, so I think this is a place to stop. Thanks for hanging with me, Colin. I'll talk with you in a minute.